begin by acknowledging the contributions of our forefathers who have helped in creating a world based on freedom and human dignity. I extend my respect to people of diverse culture, faith, color, and gender, and pledge to work for equity, inclusivity, peace, and harmony. A very good morning to one and all present here. Today, I, Himakshi Datta, a first-year student of DME Media School, welcome you to the 5th edition of the world's first 7-day hybrid international media conference, ICAN5. This conference is being organized by 2 different continents. The International Media Conference, ICAN5, is being organized by DME Media School of Delhi Metropolitan Education in collaboration with the School of Communication and Creative Arts, Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. I would like to take a moment to introduce Delhi Metropolitan Education to our viewers. Delhi Metropolitan Education, DME, Media School is a premier education institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, New Delhi, and is approved by the Bar Council of India. The institute offers BBA, BA LLB, and BBA LLB with BCI approval and BA JMC programs. DME believes in imparting world-class education to its students while training them to develop and enhance their skills. This education and training enables them in taking up challenges of the industry and creating a space for themselves with their competence and vigor. DME is one of the most promising media institutes in the country. It offers BA in journalism and mass communication and is recognized as a school which is focused on the growth of its faculty and students through academic and co-curricular activities. Major flagship events of the school include DG Verghese Lecture Series, Peer-to-Peer FDP, International Film Festival SIFI, International Conference ICAN, Ritika, Convention of Media Students, and newly added to the list is VIF, Vibrant India Series. ICAN5 has come up with the theme Inclusivity, Convergence, and Alternate Negotiations with the hashtag Communication for All. ICAN5 has the support of 17 partners, including IAMCR Gender Section, GMEC, Global Media Education Council as the conference partners. We have our knowledge partners, Makhan Lal Chaturvedi University, Bhopal, Vigyan Prasar Government of India, and KSF, Keshav Suri Foundation. For ICAN5, our international partners are Institute for International Journalism, Ohio University, USA, Green University, Bangladesh, and Daffodil International University, Bangladesh. Media partners for ICAN5 are Amar Ujala, The Policy Times, Jai Hind Times, and the Hindi Post. ICAN5 is powered by Asian Media and Cultural Studies Network, Australia, Australia-India Film Practitioners and Researchers Network, SPARK, the Student Body Council of DME Media School, and RIM, Research and Innovation in Media, the research cell of DME Media School. The conference is supported by NOTO, National Organ and Tissue Transplant Organization. Since 2018, DME Media School is organizing the international conference. The themes for the former editions were ICAN1, India and Changing Aspects of News, ICAN2, Indian Cinema and Alternate Networks, ICAN3, Issues of Community, Agenda, and News with the hashtag Conference for Change. ICAN4, Information, Communication, and Artificial Networks with the hashtag Communication Redefined. ICAN5 will witness a total of 26 sessions, including 18 live sessions, 5 hybrid sessions, and 3 physical sessions. The schedule comprises of 10 technical sessions, 5 panel discussions, 2 masterclasses, 2 workshops, and 2 plenary sessions. Proud to mention here that all technical sessions are being chaired by women scholars representing different states and countries. I'm happy to share that Journalism at DME, the official newsletter of DME Media School, is the fortnightly publication that covers all activities happening in and out of the campus. It is a student-centric newsletter which is carried out entirely by them under the supervision of faculty members. DME TV is the official YouTube channel of DME, where you can find the playlist related to all sessions, lecture series, film festivals, and conferences. It gives me immense pleasure that ICAN5 will go live on the official Facebook page of DME for the various sessions. And for more information, follow us on our social media handles that we'll be sharing in the chat box soon. Now I invite Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, Director DME Studios and Production, convener of ICAN5, to give his opening remarks for the session and highlight the theme of today's session. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Himakshi. I begin today by acknowledging the contribution of our forefathers who have helped in creating a world based on freedom and human dignity. I extend my respect to people of diverse culture, faith, color, and gender, and pledge to work for equity, inclusivity, peace, and harmony. So today is the second session of ICAN5, and this is the second technical session that we are having. We had a great start last evening, in which scholars joined from different countries, and that set the stage of the fifth edition of ICAN. It was in 2018 that we started this conference, and with every conference we are trying to take one step ahead. And the important thing that we have tried to do this year, that we have tried to get the representation from the Indian subcontinent, wherein the scholars have joined from Bangladesh and Pakistan as well. Now, there are 10 technical sessions, and each session is on a peculiar theme. Like this session is devoted to education and health, basically, because we got a number of papers on education and health. And besides it, education and health, another important thing which we witnessed was was an online thing. That was obviously an impact of COVID-19. So the online aspect also we wanted to highlight, and that is how this has been titled as Education and Health in the Digital Era, the impact of online and women and youth. And obviously, when we talk about health and education, women are basically in the forefront because of whatever is required for the education of women, that's somewhere missing, despite whatever efforts are being done. And that is how in this conference, ICAN also, we are trying to focus on women in terms of representation, in terms of participation, and in terms of the topics or the papers which are based on them. So I welcome Professor Pallavi Majumdar to this session. She has kindly agreed to chair this session, and I'm looking forward to listen to really some good discussions and deliberations. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. The theme for today's technical session is Education and Health in the Digital Era, Impact of Women on Online and Youth. Today, we have a total of 8 presentations. Now, I would like to invite our expert for today's technical session, Dr. Pallavi Majumdar. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am is a communication expert and has experience of training in the media industry for over 25 years across leading brands in India. She has led one of the largest communication schools in India at Amity University, Noida, and is presently a professor of mass communication at Royal Thimphu College, Bhutan. She is a content specialist and consults with international bodies such as UN and corporate and non-corporate sectors. Dr. Majumdar holds a PhD in Media Studies from the Center of Cultural and Media Governance, Jamia Millia Islamia. She has over 8 years of hands-on and multifunctional experience in journalism with the Times of India, Delhi, and Business Standard, and has led several international initiatives, including Media Affairs of Training for Government of South America. Ma'am, with your permission, we would like to start with the presentations and take your valuable inputs at the end of the sessions. I would like to hand over the session to Pramod Kumar Pandey, Assistant Professor at DME Media School. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Himakshi. Ma'am, we would be beginning with the presentations, and I would like to tell all the participants to please stick to the prescribed timeline because we are already late by 1 hour. In this case, we have our first presenter for the day. It's Abner Tony Martin, and the title of his research work is Job Crisis and Unemployment Condition, Youth and Jobs in the Post-Pandemic Times. And he's from Amity School of Communication, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. And I will be sharing the presentation.
Morning to one and all. A very warm welcome to all our panel members. The topic that I'll be discussing today is about formation of skills development strategies and education program for schools. The term instructive or school authority became well known during the 20th century when requests on schools for more elevated levels of understudy accomplishment expanded. Schools were supposed to improve, change, and answer the instructive necessities of youngsters. These assumptions were joined by call for responsibility at the school level. In such a situation, support of business as usual was generally thought of to be satisfactory through a routinized type of managerial and the board rehearses that suggested steadiness by practicing control and oversight. Thoughts in research as well as by and by began to arise with an emphasis of re-establishing the confidence in the education system and imbuing it with dynamism and favorable to dynamic way of behaving of pioneers at the school level. This new flood of confidence resounded well with the idea of the school initiative. It was felt that the advance in idea of school conditions put more prominent and fresher expectations on instructive pioneers, where information on school tasks, the executives, finance, department guidelines, and state order were viewed as essential, yet not adequate. The rising variety of the understudy populace as far as language, culture, customs, and conviction put a superior on school pioneers to think and act as the past to their social standard obligations. The low level of learning of youngsters, even subsequent, is going to be class made by a dire requirement for a solid accentuation on the improvement of education abilities of the school heads. I would request you to please switch on to the next slide. Thank you. The examination extinguished that the curricular contrast among different business ventures and social advancements. To improve more and profound bits of knowledge, the scientists have played out an examination to the schools where these courses are being instructed. Beside assessment obviously goals, it items showing teaching methods and methodologies is directed on business. Conversations on these affirmed bits of knowledge has lighted to the contention the necessity between disciplinary joint effort among social business venture teachers. The school leadership has an effect on student learning as well, which promotes a direct impact. The head alongside the authority group straightforwardly makes the suitable circumstances in a school for understudied learning. These are as far as establishing the school environment, a culture of picking up, preparing assets, and guaranteeing their impartial disseminations, laying out great associations with local area and training officials, building limited educators, guaranteeing a free form of potential harm climate for youngsters to hang off, empowering development and significantly captivating in advancements. Also, the research concludes the introduction to critical and creative learning and thinking. What is implied as an expertise? Thinking alludes to a scope of mental exercises that assist with understanding, interface, investigate, test, and make thoughts. Mental researchers today thinking as an expertise that can purposely instructed and grown instead of as an inalienable and fixed quality that must be made due was supposed as suspected previously. What are the various kinds of reasoning? While numerous scholars have characterized sorts of reasoning in different ways, expansive characterization that rises up to control them off the records and accompanying reasonable abilities. Critical thinking skills, the capacity to conceptualize, apply, dissect, integrate, and assess thoughts and proof to frame legitimate decisions. Creative thinking skills, the capacity to check out the issue with unique, irregular, new methodologies and perspectives. While the focal point on this one-day studio is on creating the basic and inventive reasoning abilities, it utilizes numerous metacognitive techniques like noticeable reasoning schedules to do as much as such. What is the connection between decisive reasoning and imaginative reasoning? While decisive reasoning and imaginative reasoning are normally considered being the farthest edges of the range of reasoning, the truth of the matter is that there are extensive crossover reliance between the two as displayed in the Venn graph above. While the decisive reasoning is viewed as the scientific, organized, and purposeful, it utilizes apparent and free-streaming and unreasonable is likewise made convincible and conceivable through organized scheduled methodologies. What do we mean by social entrepreneurship? The proof found when Harvard Business School sent off the course named Social Entrepreneurship during the 90s. Before long, it spread along the globe with diving business colleges began offering social business ventures instructed. Social entrepreneurship education in India it should be considered as an initial stance for promoting our youngsters towards building independent foundations as well. The advanced education in the area in India has turned into a significant wellspring of advancing and supporting social endeavor area through creating fire-up undertakings. There are a developing number of scholarly foundations, those who began scholastic seminars on friendly business ventures, either as undeniable everyday scheduled programs. The challenges that are faced by social entrepreneurship education are diversified into monodisciplinary and multidisciplinary projects. The social business ventures training granted in the Indian School of Understudy centers around teaching and promoting abilities. What was the discussions and findings about this study? Was that social business in India is generally evolved in the view of the understanding of employees of colleges and restricted worldwide openings. Nonetheless, for an arising economy like India, it needs additionally thought of examination because of the clarity of the issue to be cooked by the means of social plans of action. In any case, the examination in this space is restricted and bound to the meaning of social business ventures. It doesn't cover the crucial perspective, for example, nature and aspects of social plan of action, contemporary issues that could be settled by the means of social business in both formal and casual methods of conveyance or such schooling. These are the occasions wherein the social business ventures is contrasted and corporate business ventures, enterprise endeavor, maintainability, etc. Nonetheless, social business ventures are characterized and previously mentioned segments has an unmistakable qualification that it expects to tackle a social issue using the business ideas. This understanding ought to be centered around while figuring out the educational plan in Indian universities. In any case, satisfied dissecting as an introduced in the tables and alternated pictures that's been presented to you earlier, the course targets sections mirrors as a typical topic.
Abner, I'm sorry to intervene, but I request you to kindly wind up your presentation now because we have already exceeded the time limit for this presentation.
Yes, sir. The course targets to selection mirrors and typical topics wherein wannabes are prepared to information abilities and approach of setting social undertaking. To conclude, Indian school level programs or on friendly business ventures is still in underlying stage and gradually getting acknowledged across colleges and foundations. The paper has given light and the research on the social business ventures and training or formulation of skill development techniques and programs in schools. The information gathered by scientists on 5 organizations from India showed that there was no tremendous insection in exists in plans of the courses. The education information shifts. In any case, in outset, the social business program is presented by chosen organization. Thus, the example size in this study has been restricted to 5 organizations. By and by, the examination fails in as in start of the conversation for additional rising the range of exploration in friendly business training at school level in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod. May I give a quick comments? So, Abner, wonderful. Thank you for a good presentation. And I must say that you've chosen a very ambitious topic for your paper. Unemployment and job crisis is something which, is a very pertinent issue as a result of COVID-19. Just a few comments that, because I think the title pertains to job crisis and unemployment at the school level, but you've also dealt with social entrepreneurship as one of the key themes in your paper. It's a very interesting area if you want to explore further, because I see that at the higher education level, you have a lot of these, fellowships in social entrepreneurship that are being promoted. Just a quick question. These 5 organizations that you mentioned, these are, which organizations are these, if you could specify, and which are the scientists that you're talking about?
This model ought to endeavor and animate the zing among the person to seek after friendly business, that's the higher educational institutes, and subsequently increasing more work valuable open doors. So the scientists are referred to as the existing people who have already been part of school infrastructures. The 5 industries or the segments of the industry are set towards the increasing more valuable open doors made alongside confidential goals to social issues first, and the job of government would be diminished in setting social issues. The 5 key industries are the public merchandise and the public. Second is the law enforcement and the legal framework and the assessment assortment, and as well as the political ecosystem as well.
Okay, thank you. Pramodji, we can move on to the next paper.
Yeah. So our next presenter is Zishan Zhang and Xingke Yao from Renmin University of China. And the topic of presentation is Women's Media Literacy About TikTok App, a study of Beijing and Hubei province. I request both the author and the co-author to please turn their cameras on. And I also request the Delhi Metropolitan to please give them the co-author. Allow them to be the.
What's the name of the co-author?
Ask them to be the co-host. Yes, please.
Mr. Tony is the co-host, and who is the next co-author?
I said, sir, Zishan Zhang and Xingke Yao.
Xingke Yao is also a co-host.
Okay. Okay. Also, there's Xingke Yao. If you can just.
I'm sorry, I had a bad connection. Should I continue my presentation from now on?
Okay. What about the co-author? Your co-author, you want to...
I will start first, then
fine,
she will move on to the next part.
Fine. Okay.
I'm gonna share my screen first. Sorry. And our topic is about women's media literacy about TikTok app, and it is a study of Beijing and Hubei province. And we are Zishan Zeng and Xin Yao from Renewable University of China. Our presentation will be divided into 4 parts: the introduction, method, resource, and discussion. We all know that the internet is rapidly evolving. The penetration rate and number of internet users in China have risen year after year according to the chart below. And also, people regularly use social media platforms and apps when searching the internet for information. Mobile internet users account for the vast majority of Chinese internet users. The percentage of men and women on social media is progressively balancing according to the pie chart. Women are increasingly using the internet and social media platforms to blog, socialize, and voice their opinions. However, people's inadequate media literacy and abundant misleading information lie behind their great excitement for utilizing social media. There are many short videos on TikTok platform that disseminate false beliefs and messages, but many people choose to trust them. Our literature review is divided into 4 parts. We all know the definition of media literacy. Scholars from China and abroad have discussed it from many perspectives. However, when we look at research on women's media literacy, we can find that there is minimal academic research on women's media literacy. And also, research on the media literacy of the elderly has become a hot topic as a result of the aging society and the popularity of social media. People's media literacy will vary depending on the level of political and economic developments in their respective locations. Media literacy study in many regions is also a current topic. Through the literature review in those 3 aspects, we have put forward 2 hypotheses as shown in the PowerPoint. And also, the connection between education and media literacy is also a hot topic. Many academics feel that schooling can help people improve their media literacy. As can be seen from the previous publications, media literacy education for young people can help them improve their literacy. However, investigations on other age groups are scarce. They put forward the following hypothesis that short-term education guidance can raise the level of media literacy. Then let's welcome my partner to introduce the methods.
Okay, and now I'm going to introduce the method. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. As for the participants, we found 412 Chinese females, and among them, 211 female participants were from Hygiene district in Beijing, and 201 female participants were from Danjiangkou city in Hubei province. And why we choose these 2 areas, this is because according to China's per capita GDP in 2021, Beijing ranked first among all the provinces, and Hubei was just slightly higher than the average. And Haidian is a developed district in Beijing, while Danjiangkou city is a county-level city that had just declared itself out of poverty last year. So we choose these 2 regions. And the age range of the participants was 18 to 55. Then we use both quantitative and qualitative methods. Next page. Hello, next page. First, we ask the whole participants to do a questionnaire survey. The question includes age, region, media literacy on TikTok, and other elements. To evaluate the media literacy, we use the framework proposed by SPM Media Literacy Leadership Institute. And for the 4 dimensions, access, analyze, evaluate, create, or manipulate, we think of 17 items as questions that are shown in the table. And items were measured with a 5-point Likert scale. 1 means strongly disagree, and 5 means strongly agree. The higher the score, and the higher is the level of the media literacy. Then as for the reliability and the validity test, the Cronenberg alpha was 0.739, and the KMO value was 0.739, and the p-value was less than 0.001 in Barley test. So the scale of this 17 items is possible to conduct factor analysis. And moreover, the study used the entropy weight method to give weight to the 4 dimensions in each items. The EWM was based on questionnaire data. As is shown in table 1, we can see the weight of the 4 dimensions and the final weight for each items. And as for the tool, we use SPSS and the Pearson's correlation coefficient to analyze the relationship between age and media literacy. Independent samples t-test to analyze the relationship between region and media literacy. And each item dimension and the comprehensive index of media literacy were analyzed. Then the second part was interview. According to the results of the questionnaire survey, next page, 25 of the participants with lower media literacy were selected. First, the 25 participants were assigned to watch 10 short video clips from TikTok to evaluate their authenticity. Then we asked them questions and do the interview. The purpose is to learn more about their media literacy and give some educational guidance. Third, the participants were asked to browse the videos again, remake their decision about the authenticity, and give their explanations and gains from the interview. The interview data were analyzed qualitatively on NVivo 11 software. It was carried out following the sequence of 3-level coding of classical grounded theory, as is showed on PowerPoint: open coding, extra coding, and core coding, and then we'll get the results. And as for the results, first for the H1, the media literacy and age, we can see that 10 items and 3 dimensions were significant. That was A2, A3, B2, B3, B4, C1, C2, C3, C4, D1. And 3 dimensions are access, analyze, evaluate. And for the final comprehensive media literacy, the P was less than 0.01. So there is a negative correlation between women's media literacy and age. Elder people tend to have lower media literacy, and H1 was supported. And then next is the media literacy and the region. We can see that 9 items and 2 dimensions were significant. That were A4, B2, C1, C3, C4, D4, and 2 dimensions are access, evaluate. And for the final comprehensive media literacy, P was 0.084. So despite women in Hygiene attaining higher scores than women in Danjiangkou, there was no significant difference in the scores for region. So H2 was not supported. Then let's welcome my partner, Sang Jung, to continue the result.
As for the part of media literacy and the short-term guidance, we used the NVivo and 3-level coding of classical grounded theory, and the results are shown in these 2 tables. We can see that the access has not changed significantly after short-term guidance, and the use of search engines and search tools has improved, but there has been no change in the use of tools, software, or frequency. Many people can understand the content structure, background information, and order of media information through short-term education and guidance. In terms of information analysis and evaluation, they learn how to avoid and close harmful information too. At the same time, we can see the average number of correct answers in the first link of judging the authenticity was 23%, while after short-term guidance, the average accurate rate reached 69%. This demonstrates that short-term guidance improved media literacy analysis and evaluation. As can be seen, hypothesis 3 is insufficient and only partially correct. Short-term guidance can help improve media literacy, but it cannot help with all aspects. The improvement is most visible in analysis and evaluation. Now we'll come to the discussion part. We can see this study examines the relationship between media literacy and Chinese females and age, region, as well as whether short-term education can improve media literacy through the use of a short video platform, though the hypothesis 1 was supported and hypothesis 2 was not. Assess and evaluate dimensions are both significant in age and region. Short-term guidance can help improve media literacy, according to the research, but the proposed hypothesis 3 is not entirely correct. Although it has the potential to improve media literacy, it cannot do so at all levels. There are some limitations to the study, like the scale and item to evaluate the comprehensive media literacy need to be modified to guide higher reliability. Besides, the sample size of the questionnaire could be larger. Due to the large number of entries, the secondary coding may not be able to summarize all the 3-level coding's contents. In future research, we can examine whether long-term guidance and education are beneficial to the improvements of women's media literacy. At the same time, we can investigate whether education can only improve analysis and evaluation while having no effect on the other 2 areas. And this is the end of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rishan and Zinke. It was a brilliant presentation. Pallavi ma'am, I request you to kindly give some input.
Sure. So if there are any questions from the audience, I would also kind of urge people to share their questions in the chat box, and I'll be happy to take them up with the presenters as we go by. Zishan and Zinke, an absolutely very interesting presentation, visually also very rich. I have 2 questions, and you can decide whoever wants to kind of have a go at them. First of all, in the second method that you followed, which was the interviews, you mentioned that a certain group of respondents was chosen which had low media literacy, and then they were shown some video clips. What I would like to, you to clarify is that did you curate the content of the videos that they saw? What was the purpose of kind of getting them to see the videos? What outcome did you get from this particular tool that you used? That's question number 1. And the question number 2 would be that because you mentioned that media literacy, there's a connection between the age, right, and media literacy. Is there a correlation that you could find between media literacy and age-related demographics in the 2 provinces that you studied?
I will answer the first question first. We used the interview because we show about many video clips from the TikTok platforms, and many are false videos, but most of them are in Chinese. So we use this video mainly to show where is the aspect they lack. For example, we choose some videos that contains false information or contains people of false professions to express their opinions. And we like to know in which exact areas they lack the media literacy. For example, they lack evaluation or in create or manipulation. For example, we have this video demonstrating people use the false type of media usage, and we want them to know and we want them to define the right answer or the wrong answer. So, and after that, after the short-term guidance, we use them to watch it again so we can know which aspect is there improved. Let me share my screen. Oh. I have wait for a moment. I will share my PPT, and like in this PPT, we have different concepts, and we can analysis of different concepts through the coding and through this interview and the different videos. And this is the instance and why we use those videos in the interviews.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay,
And also for the age group, we choose 2 different people from different regions. And this part is demonstrated by my partner.
Sorry, Professor, can you repeat your second question?
My second question was that since you focused on the fact that media literacy is related to the age demographics, I just want you to quickly sum up your findings in the 2 provinces that you studied vis-a-vis age and media literacy.
Yes, as we have just mentioned, we use the media literacy scale to evaluate the media literacy. Last page. 上一张.
Okay.
So the screen. It's last framework method. Oh, sorry. Maybe.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Yes, it's just like this. We use these items to evaluate what the media literacy between their age, and we find that we thought some items under each dimensions like access, analyze, evaluate, and create or manipulate. We found that especially from analyze and evaluate, ask these questions, the significant difference is very obvious in different ages. But for the access and create and manipulate, maybe I think this is more maybe co-created with some the economic resources. If they are rich and they can have access. So for the age, maybe they are more related with the analyze and evaluate, not just for these items. And we use the weight to analyze the dimensions and the whole dimensions. So we think the analyze and evaluate is the 2 most important dimensions in the media literacy. Yes, that's what we found.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you very much, Pallavi ma'am, and thank you very much the presenters for such a brilliant presentation. We are moving next with Gurleen Kaur Hans, who is Assistant Professor at JIMS Rohini, Delhi. And the topic of presentation is online courses for high school students, fast track career options through skill acquisition. I request Gurleen Kaur ji to please turn the cameras on.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My paper presentation is on the topic, the new academic Leviathan, a study courses on disruptive threat to mainstream of establishments. I'm a research scholar at Amity University, Haryana, and my guide is Dr. Pooja Rana. I'm also an assistant professor at JIMS Rohini. Yeah, as the presentation says, as we all know, MOOCs is a platform which is flourishing its wings at a higher pace right now. An online platform which has many high volume participants which are enrolling in. With the arrival of internet and COVID-19, we have seen that online education, online platforms, and online mediums are growing on with a flexible pace. But yes, there is we are just with this paper, I am just judging the effectiveness and establishment of MOOCs with the parallel growth. Is it growing at that pace or not? My paper presentation focuses on whether these courses are posing serious competition to the mainstream academics or not. As we know, MOOCs is based on the instructional content. It has various videos. Many tutors are available, which are in many languages. They are educated participants, which are giving their education to scholars, to students who enroll in with their busy schedule, with their part-time education. If they want to enroll part-time education, they have flexible time and pace, and they can give their examinations. They can have certificates for their upliftments and for their growth. Efficacy of MOOCs. If I talk about the efficacy of MOOCs, the higher attrition towards the considerable requirement is MOOCs is continuously going on towards capturing various courses, various opportunities, like the biggest strength to the MOOCs platform is the universities which are enrolling in and the students which are getting education from the MOOCs platform. My first objective was to ascertain the growth of MOOCs courses internationally in the past 5 years. My second objective was to examine the sustainability of MOOCs courses in relation to the regular university courses. My third objective is to evaluate the pedagogy of MOOC courses and see whether what they offer in terms of teaching, whether it is more enjoyable and acceptable to the students than the regular university education, means the online platform and the traditional platform. My results of the objective one was that yes, MOOCs is one of the biggest strength and it is widely accepted by the students. But yes, it has several like if you can talk about the competitive courses, or you can say that students and people or the media or the masses which are also accepting courses like MOOCs, which are Swayam, Apna course, Neptal, EPG Pathshala, which is launched by UGC. Principal reasons why people prefer taking online courses after analyzing this first objective was it is out of pure curiosity that whether this particular course or this particular topic is like available, either more information is available online. Yes, and the second reason is they need advancement for careers. Yes, as we all know, for advancement of any career or any appraisal or any career opportunity, we need more and more certifications, we need more and more degrees, and so people have opted online courses and MOOCs courses and many other courses which are available online and which is very easy for them, as it is flexible towards the time. They can manage it with their jobs, they can manage it with their busy schedule. Third reason why people prefer taking online courses is certification, and yes, finally getting the certificates and getting the upliftments in their biodatas for self-certificate satisfaction and egoistic reasons also. My second objective, the conclusion to my second objective was many senior age group people do enrolled in the MOOC courses, but very few can come into the conclusion. And what is the reason behind this is because there are many technical things in this platform, and which the higher age group people are not able to get into, or they need help because of the technical problems they are facing. So the conclusion says the people have given the feedback that they should have technical video assistance as well. The findings were observed that in India and as well as internationally, MOOCs are growing. MOOCs has grown, and after the COVID-19 thing, after the COVID-19 after the COVID thing, these platforms have been growing, and people have accepted it as a part and parcel of their life and as a part and parcel of their education. the third the solution the solution to the third objective was, with the advent of MOOCs, online learning education have become debatable and challenging issue as well. Even students debate as to whether they should accumulate the skills or the third objective, the solution to the third objective was, the students who are enrolling, they are challenging these things, that whether the online courses are acceptable, whether the certification or whether the things will be accepted as equal to the regular university education, or it will have some or the other changes, or if it will be accepted or not. My significant findings with the figure says 46% of the students have been motivated. 39% of the online students fall between the age of 18 to 29. 70% of the virtual learners are females. 60% of the student trainers are online, are enrolling online, and they are also employed as full-time. I mean, my significant finding says that full-time people enjoy enrolling in these courses because they can manage both the things. People doing an online course are also using online learning material in the 3 months prior to the survey, and after 2021 these has been growing, and the and yes, this study, the figure says in Europe, Iceland and Norway were the highest consumers of the online courses after 2021. As the MOOC market, I can say North America is the highest consumer of MOOCs. Middle East and Africa are the lowest consumer as per the data. My conclusion, I want to conclude my presentation with the paper now. My conclusion says that yes, growth of MOOCs and enrollment of MOOCs are growing on, and some technical issues which are being faced by the students or the senior people or the learning community needs a technical support assistance, and the academic mainstreams, competition syllabus, learning tools, learning things, learning material are growing. As with any technology, time is also the barometer, but yes, the partial acceptance and the partial rejections are a part of any platform. Online courses is growing on, and yes, people are accepting it with a happy pace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Pallavi, ma'am, you want to give any suggestion? Or...
Yeah, thank you. Thank
you. Ma'am, I'm not able to hear you.
I hope I am audible now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So, Gurleen, what I was saying is that MOOCs is indeed an interesting area,
yes.
which needed to be explored. But in your presentation, a few things are not very clear. For example, what is the research design that you followed to be able to come to the conclusions that you did? For instance, how did you measure or gauge the growth of MOOCs over the defined period of time? And also one more question is that, in terms of the response, you mentioned one of the objectives is to find out whether the traditional universities have felt threatened. So have they felt threatened, and what has been the response? How have they kind of reacted? By what are the measures, right? So if you could start by clarifying your research design, and then very briefly, if you could just sum it up.
Yeah, ma'am, yes, traditional media is facing, yes, they are facing a competitive area, and the online courses are growing, and the traditional impact, traditional pedagogy is facing a competition with these online courses. And yes, the reviews, the paper I have reviewed, and the literature reviews says that yes, the traditional pedagogy is facing a competitive spirit here, and the online courses is impacting and moving on, and it is inflating in front of the traditional pedagogy.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification. So your study was primarily based on secondary literature.
Secondary research, yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Pramodji, we can move on to the next.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next, we have Riya Sharma, who is from Amity University School of Communication, and the topic of her presentation is Effect of Online Education on the Mental Health of Students. I request Riya ji to please turn your camera on, and I will be the one who will be sharing the presentation for her.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my topic is basically effect of online education on the mental health of students. So the very first thing that we'll start with is introduction. So as we all know that India witnessed its first COVID case in January 2002, but the media didn't confirm the existence of disease in the country at that point of time. So when India and other countries saw a spike in the cases at the end of February 2020, it basically led to the closure of all the institutions, including colleges, schools, companies, MNCs, and malls. So the government of India also instructed for the introduction of online platforms to continue with the work from home and educational purposes. And talking about the emotional and mental state of people, it got highly affected during the times of COVID, because sitting idle, doing nothing, basically drove people as our students insane. So after a month, when the institution started with the system of online education, the students were quite relaxed, thinking that they won't have to step out of their comfort zone. After a period of time, not only the working people, but also the students started getting fed up because of our new normal system. Their sleeping hours changed drastically, which also led to the changes in their eating habits and timings. So and also the teachers started giving students more and more assignments, even more than they were giving during the physical mode of classes, which basically made students getting stressed day by day, which also led to building up of anxiety among the students. So the research paper basically focuses on 3 objectives. The very first objective is to study and observe the effects of online education on the mental health and brain development of students, to analyze how online education is different from offline mode of education, and the last is to examine the side effects of laptops and phones on the brain development of students. So for the research paper, we basically reviewed a lot of articles, journals, and blogs related to the same topic, and we have summarized a review of literature in these 5 points. The very first point is mental health issues like anxiety, depression, OCD, insomnia, ADHD, and others, which have basically affected students on different levels. The very second topic is basically online education, how online education was introduced, how it is still being continued, what are its effects, either positive or negative. Then we have effects of online education upon the mental as well as the physical health of students, because we all know that not only mental health, but also the physical health of people were basically affected. The next is lack of interest among students. And the last is raising concerns and issues regarding the academy of students. Because as we all know, in 2020, when the online platforms were just introduced for educational purposes to continue with the education, even the universities and schools, even the parents were basically questioning when will the examinations take place, how will they take place. So there were a lot of raising concerns. The next topic is research methodology. So the tools used for research is basically a questionnaire, which was conducted for individuals mainly living in Delhi, NCR, and Gurgaon. A descriptive and experimental survey was basically made for conducting the survey. And the data was collected from 160 respondents with the help of WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. The data collection was basically done combining the 2 main data analysis methods, which is primary data and secondary data. The primary data was done with the help of survey, and secondary data was basically done by examining various articles and blogs. Here is my data analysis and interpretation. So the very question was regarding the mental health, that what is the current mental state of the students. So they had to rate it amongst the 4 rating scales given below, which is average, balanced, terrible, not so good, among which the most of the students opted for average. The very next question is, what was the experience with the online learning platforms? How is their experience? And most of the students opted for average and good. The next question was the affected areas of the life, which was education, health, and income, among which most of the students opted for education. Then was, will the students prefer online education or not? And most of the students opted for no, which is 78%. Then was increase in screen time, and the most of the students opted for yes, which is 85%. The next question was, are they having any difficulty in concentrating or in concentration part? And most of the students opted for yes, which is 55%. Then was what type of mental issues they were facing. The options given were depression, anxiety, obsessive thoughts, and others. And most of the students opted for anxiety. The last question was, how are they coping up with their mental issues and their daily anxiety? The options given were professional help, listening to music, and others, among which the most of the students opted for listening to music. The resultant findings of the paper was that to study and examine the effect of online education on the mental health and the brain development of students, we used and applied quantitative method of analysis. So we basically conducted a survey consisting of 10 questions, multiple choice based on the related topic. And we wanted to know the effects and the causes of the mental stress, trauma, and anxiety upon the students. In order to gain more insights, we also analyzed each respondent's response. So after examining and observing the responses, we found out that more than 90% of students were facing major side effects because of attending online classes. And the major findings of the paper are basically focused more over how much pressure the students are dealing with now during the period of lockdown. I would like to conclude by saying that online education and online learning and media has been an essential part of our lives now as a part of a new normal system. And it has become a much needed source of information as an entertainment for us. So in today's world, considering the current situation, online education cannot be suspended completely, as no one knows how many waves are yet to be discovered and which wave is going to be more fatal. Anxiety is not something which can be defined in words, as the one who is suffering from it only knows what it feels like. But not every student has a problem with online teaching, as it was seen in the data analysis. Thus, it can be concluded that not every student feels anxious throughout the day, and those who do might not feel it as intensely as others. So after examining and reviewing the data of survey for primary sources of analysis and research papers for secondary source of analysis, there were a few limitations that could be addressed for the future scope of the study. These limitations were, first was limitation related to sample and sampling, because a lot of people were not comfortable coming up with their own issues, because today also the Indian society thinks that sharing your mental issues is a taboo. Then we have limitation related to insufficient statistical measurement, because the maximum respondent scale was 200, and not a lot of people were responding to the survey. The last and the third limitation is limitation related to lack of research papers written previously, because while I was analyzing and studying the other research papers for my topic, I saw and observed that there were very few papers, blogs, and articles and journals on the same topic, because COVID-19 has just entered. And these are some references that I used for my research paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ria. Pallavi ma'am, if you can just.
Thank you, Ria. Again, a pertinent topic, because mental health is something which really came into the forefront, during COVID-19. I was wondering if you would like to interrogate one aspect as to why students were feeling very stressed out during the online learning phase. And I was wondering if you thought about whether it was the fact that a lot of, at least Asian universities, tried to translate the face-to-face learning model onto the online model, right? So it's not as if they kind of recreated the model and made it student-centric. I think it was face-to-face.
Yes.
It was more of I would say, a teacher to student, a monologue kind of a situation, without using the interactive tools that online medium and normally necessitates. So did you kind of come across this? Did you interrogate this particular issue?
The issue is not typically related to online, but it is related to online education, because still, even it is face to face, because we are seeing the faculty is able to see us, but still our students are limited to that 4 walls of the house. They are not going out, they are not able to interact with the teacher on on a live basis. And also because when the online platforms were introduced in 2020, a lot of institutions had no idea how to conduct the examinations, which also caused more stress. A lot of universities did not have the idea how will they try to cope up with the academics, because it was a sudden change. It was nothing, it was planned. It was a sudden change for the students as well. The universities were basically giving more and more assignments, and also the students, because they were confined in their own comfort zone, because they were sitting at home on their beds in their night suits. A lot of students were not even paying attention, because of which later they faced that they were not able to able to cope up with the studies. So it also caused a lot of stress and anxiety among the students.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ria. Thank you, ma'am. We are moving on to our next presentation, and that's by Dishita Sharma, who's from Amity School of Communication, Amity University. The topic of her presentation is Awareness, Education, and Communication about Menstrual Hygiene between Parents and Teenagers.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'll be starting with my presentation. So the topic for my presentation is awareness, education, and communication about menstrual hygiene between parents and teenagers. So menstruation has been long considered an important part of women's life. However, academics and health professionals have recently come to realize that men who change genders and men who go through menstruation are less likely to know about their views and knowledge about menstruation. It can affect both men and women, as it is one of the most important aspects of human reproduction and parenthood. Menstrual age vary by location, race, nationality, and other factors. However, usually occur in low-income people between the ages of 8 and 16, with an average age of 13. The average age of menopause is considered to about 50 years. Femininity is not defined by menstruation. Femininity is defined by people who identify themselves as women. The experiences that gives you meaning. We do not have a strong border about it. Almost every form of Indian media that has tried to represent the changing people has failed miserably. Many parts are made by cisgender players and are written by cisgender writers who do not know what it means to be transgender and misrepresent the population. Because what people see and hear on TV has a profound effect on the perceptions and beliefs that has likely and does not continue to be a blessing in disguise. We still live in a society where sex is cut off from the genitals and outward appearances, without the fact that the vast majority of people do not comply with the bill on what should be. Diverse representation can ensure that the identity of the people change is important and their needs are met. It may seem like an insignificant detail, but every time a few people are involved in something that is directly at the community, we are closer to uniting our community and get better along. So the introduction part, teenagers have been identified as a vital time that calls for attention because it marks for the beginning of menarche, a significant milestone. As a result, maintaining proper hygiene throughout the menstruation is essential for leading a happy life. Menstruation is a biological process. It is not a characteristic of a woman. Menstruation is a physical issue as opposed to gender. No matter what they are or who they are, anyone who has a uterus and a vagina are normally functioning will menstruate. Menstrual hygiene is primarily aiming at maintaining personal hygiene during periods. It recommends observing and collecting the blood with a sterile cotton-based substance that after a menstruation should cleanse a vaginal area with a soap and commercial wash and should not use products which are harmful for the area. So the objectives of the study were to research about the menstrual biasness in the society that is still there. Then the second one is fostering the transparency regarding menstrual hygiene. Third, raising awareness of healthy menstruation practices. And the last one is gaining knowledge of healthy menstrual periods. So the literature review of the paper is divided into following content. That is, why does the menstruation occur? What is menstrual hygiene? problems faced during menstrual hygiene, and the key activities to promote menstrual hygiene in the society.
Dishita, are you sharing your screen? I mean, do you have a presentation? Because your screen is, I mean, we can only see you, not the presentation.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible now.
Okay. So I was talking about the literature review. So literature review is divided into these following contents. That was, why is menstruation occurring? And what is the menstrual hygiene? What is its definition? What are the problems that are faced during menstruation? And what are the key activities that are used to promote the menstrual hygiene? Then what are the menstrual hygiene practices? The general state of health is greatly impacted by menstrual hygiene routines. Any unsanitary behavior at this time, when the uterus is releasing the blood and tissue, can leave your vaginal area prone to infections. The few activities or practices that can be used were that if you are using a tampon, then make sure you use a clean tampon. And if you're using a pad, then the pads must be changed at a regular interval. Then cleaning the vaginal area properly is a very important step. Then avoiding the use of harsh products is very essential. And last, proper disposal of the sanitary products are an essential part. These are some of the most commonly used products of menstrual hygiene. First is the tampon. Second is the sanitary pad that you normally use. Then the third one are the reusable pads. And lastly is the menstrual cup. Then we'll talk about menstrual awareness. Menstrual awareness is a relatively new phenomena on a national scale. While menstruators have been working for a long time to make hygienic items more attainable and to eradicate stigmas, it has only recently been public and people have started talking more about it, and the taboos are slightly less than what they used to be, and people are trying to be more aware and trying to understand what a person goes through or a menstruator goes through when menstruation occurs. Menstruation awareness strives to make hygiene supplies available to those in need, but it also has other aspects. There are 3 steps that we can use to create awareness. First is breaking down the stigmas or the taboos that are there in the society by creating awareness, by launching new campaigns, telling or awareing people or young generation about and talking about it openly with our parents or the teenagers that are talking. Then educating the young people and imparting them education about what is menstruation and how they're supposed to keep themselves clean or hygienic during the entire process. Then addressing period poverty. This relates to addressing poverty, periods in the poverty as in the low income group too, so that they can also stick to hygienic practices and do not fall ill or get prone to any infections that are there related to the same. Then the research methodology that was used was a mixed approach of qualitative and quantitative data. The qualitative data will be comprising of primary research, which will be acquired through survey and questionnaire. The quantitative data will be comprising.
It would be great if you can just move to the findings.
All right, thank you. I'll talk about the conclusion that I found. During the research, it was discussed and discovered that the basic information about menstruation associated with the practices was not clearly given, was associated, should be cleared and given to the youngsters in both schools and homes. It was also discovered through the study that simply giving the napkins or sanitary pads were not sufficient. It was insufficient to address the issue of menstrual hygiene, but the correct instructions on the frequency of changing and washing the genital area is required. As a result, comprehensive education on the problem of menstruation health must be provided through focus groups in schools and through various media outlets in order to ensure and raise awareness throughout the country. Parents must also discuss honestly about menstruation and must not avoid the subject. And it is also shown that knowledge across both genders is required to eliminate biasness and manage it effectively. To reduce the unnecessary constraints in menstruation, a variety of improvements in menstruators' social and reproductive health situations, community planning for sanitation and disposal, and low-cost product development and marketing are required. If India's economic standing changes in general, menstruators' position in terms of menarche and menstruation may also alter in the same direction. The physiology of the menstrual cycle, its relationship to fertility, and the fact that menstruation is a natural process free of filth should be taught in schools as part of family life and sexual education. Then limitations. There are a few limitations to the study. There was a geographical limitation to the study as it was confined only to a limited region, and even the search was not able to reach the many areas. It does not show a pattern applicable to the nation's perspective. The study was conducted for every age group, but eventually most of the responses came from young adults. So it can be concluded that study might be biased because it is youth-oriented. Many of the respondents were not comfortable with the topic of the research and were reluctant to answer the questions of the survey. The respondents were reluctant to talk about menstruation occurring in other genders, and many of them were not aware about the other genders having it. These are some of the references that I used in my research paper. And
thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Dishita. I request Pallavi ma'am to please.
Dishita, again, thank you for your presentation. Your last line actually piqued my interest. What do you mean when you say that respondents were not aware of other genders, having menstruation? You meant that you had boys in your as respondents who were not aware that girls menstruated?
No, that's not what I meant through my last line. There are a lot of trans people and cisgenders who actually face menstruation as a problem, and they're not given equal rights about it. Like we as girls, we are still given a lot of opportunities and a lot of facilities provided by the government and all the other institutions. We are provided with sanitary pads and everything, but they are not given such rights, and they are not. People do not believe them when they tell them that this actually occurs in other genders too. Menstruation is not just a women thing, it occurs in other genders too.
Okay, thank you. And what was the area for which, the demographic area for which you conducted your survey?
The survey was basically very limited to very specific areas. That was Delhi, the Delhi NCR region, Chandigarh region, and the Himachal region. That was the area of study that was conducted the survey in.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dishita. Next we have is Kanika Gambhir. Kanika Gambhir, who's also from MIT School of Communication, MIT University. And the topic of her presentation is a study about awareness relating to menstrual health and hygiene amongst teenage girls. Kanika, I request you to please turn your camera on. Kanika, she's there. She's already the co-host. Okay. In that case, we'll move on to the next presentation. I believe there is some technical problem due to which she is not able to join, or she's not able to turn on her camera. We'll move on to the next presentation. That's by Shreya Kumari Prasad. I request the host. Okay, Kanika, you are there. Kanika, you are there. Okay. Okay, please turn your camera on, Kanika. Pallavi ma'am, she is joining. It's taking some time. And I also request, meanwhile, all the presenters who are left to devote more time to the findings. If I'm not wrong, ma'am, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. Maybe less of literature review and more of a little emphasis on the research design and the findings.
Kanika has rejoined. I think there was a problem at her end. She's rejoined. I request the host to please again make Kanika Gambhir the co-host. Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
1 second. Sorry, actually, my laptop isn't working, so I need to connect it from my phone. 1 second. Am I visible too?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And do I need to share the PPT or I have mailed you to like?
Okay. Meanwhile, you can start your presentation. I'll open your.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kanika Gambhir, and I am from Amity University, Noida. And my topic of the study is awareness towards menstruational health and hygiene among teenage girls. I can share too if it's not a problem. Like,
fine, ma'am. Please do share the video.
Okay.
Share the presentation. Sorry.
Okay. Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So menstruation cycle in our nation is related with different myths and limitations, prompting absence of knowledge among teenage girls. Deficient women cleanliness rehearsals are the reasons for pressure related with periods and infection. As we all know that adolescent age is an age where we hit menstruation and we start menstruating like the girls, and we kind of are unaware of what we need to do and how it is happening, especially in India. Adolescent age is very critical to instruct the youths about issues connected with menstruation cycle so they can defend themselves and hold suggestions for experts associated with the progress of reproductive well-being. So in the introduction part, I want to say that menstruation is characterized particularly among developed females encountering shedding of blood for 1 to 7 days consistently from the time of development, like around 10 to 12 years until the menopause. Each lady normally menstruates.
Kanika, I'm very sorry to intervene. It would be great if you can just move on to your research design and then to the findings.
Yeah, sure. Can I discuss the objectives?
Yeah, definitely. And also, please see, I think when you are sharing your screen, I can see myself stuck there. So if you can just see. Yeah.
Am I not visible? Like.
No. Okay, fine. It's not fine now. You can continue the presentation.
Okay. The objectives are to assess the knowledge of how much teenage girls are aware, to investigate the determinants of menstruational hygiene and its impact on reproductive tract diseases or infections among teenage girls, to know the discernment with respect to the various parts of menstruational hygiene among the population. So the review of literature consists of menstruational awareness, menstruation as a taboo, awareness in the urban areas, awareness in the rural areas, menstruation hygiene scheme by the government that was initiated in 2011, education and menstruation and the correlation of it. Then the research methodology, the research tool that I used for this was for this research, the questionnaire was constructed and it has been carried out in Delhi, Gurgaon and Noida. The design for this research was descriptive and experimental design. The number of the respondents were 200 respondents. The data collection was primary and secondary, like I have used the both mediums. In the primary data collection, I have gathered the surveys, and in the secondary, I have studied the website, blogs, research papers, and etc. The data analysis and interpretation. Should I skip to the conclusion if it's like running out of time?
That would be great, yes.
Okay. So the conclusion is, after my survey, I have analyzed that a greater part of teenage girls are still unaware about the menstruation and the practices that they need to follow. And still there are many areas that consider menstruation as a taboo. Even I have some of my friends who still have some restrictions like not visiting the temple or not, going to the religious places and all. And they need to wash their hair before visiting anywhere. So earlier, there were a lot of taboos like sleeping on the floor, using different utensils, being in a different part of the home, and altogether there were a lot of taboos that were being followed. Still, we can see that due to staying in urban areas, I can see that there are a greater part of teenage girls who are aware, and it is a good thing. And school education is playing a vital role in this thing. as teachers and the working mother or the normal mother of the people, of the teenage girls, are also, initiating and making the girls aware about the menstruation and what practices they need to follow. But still, in the rural areas, the development is still there, but slightly it is lower than the urban areas. And also, still menstruation is considered not to talk about much in the public or openly, I can say. So I can see that still there are many things that we need to open up about, and we should be clearly talking about menstruation, as it is an important part of one's life. And without following proper practices or hygiene things, one can literally attract any harmful disease, and by not getting aware or being aware is a harmful situation that they can land in. So the limitations that were in my study were it was confined in an area, in a geographical area. So because it was conducted in a limited region, the majority of the girls that were responded were between 15 to 19 years, though the survey was conducted between the 11 to 19 years. Some of the respondents weren't, that interactive, and a sample was tested in the order to conduct. Therefore, it is not sensible to generalize the result beyond the specific sample used. These are the references. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kanika. So very quickly, one of the objectives that you started off with was to try and find out the determinants of menstrual health and hygiene. If you could very briefly tell me what were your findings regarding that?
Am I visible? Yes, ma'am. I stated that to determine the menstruational hygiene practices and its impact on RTI among the teenage girls. So there are a lot of determinants, like people, like teenage girls, do not use proper disposable practices. Or still, I have conducted a survey, and in which I observed that there are a lot of things like the hygiene practices that girls aren't following, like washing hands with soap, or the product that they should use to clean their areas, and to talk about the diseases that they think that they are, they can interact, they can get or caught with. And I also talked with few of the doctors. So they also stated that there are a lot of teenage girls these days who are still aren't that aware of the RTI, like not following proper hygiene things. The RTI can, get inherited in them.
Thank you, Kanika. I think, going forward, you need to, articulate the determinants as maybe, regional socio-economic criteria could be used, right? For
yes, ma'am.
Defining determinants, right? So great. Thank you. Thank you. Pramodji, we can move on.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. The next presentation, and that's the last presentation for the technical session 2, that is by Shreya Kumari Prasad from Amity School of Communication. And the topic of presentation is Role of Digital Media in Creating Health Consciousness and Awareness for Indian Women. I request Shreya Kumari Prasad to please turn the camera on. Please unmute yourself, Shreya.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
I'll just share my screen. So as we know, our topic is role of digital media in creating health awareness and consciousness for women. So the introduction would be, since we all have access to the world of internet, and the upsides of living in the digital world are being culminating in, like, for educational and lifestyle improvement, conversations around topics like sexually transmitted diseases, basic sexual health that the students in school are deprived of have come up. Indian women have seen long decades of underrepresentation in terms of media visibility, and issues slid under the carpet just because of not knowing how and where to get information regarding the same. So I'll quickly tell you the objectives. The objective would be to study the impact of social media on women's physical and mental health and so on, to understand the uses and risks of social media, to understand the credibility of social media for women who have access to it. And my literature review was divided into like 4 or 5 heads, which included social media women, effects of social media on women's health, adverse effects of social media, advantages, and future of social media for women. So the benefits of social media was, as we studied in the paper, is that the digital landscape that of learning, living together, enjoying, creating, relating, and communicating, and experiencing our sexuality. It is a fact that we consume social media has been dramatically changed for edutainment. Content intended to be both educational and enjoyable has been widely produced across platforms and industries, and the medical field is not an exception. Curious about how the digital world is transpiring into gynecology and women's health, we compiled some social media accounts that are resonating among consumers. It is important to highlight that social media content needs to be treated as a source of general knowledge and should not replace an individual consultation with a specialist. And next would be like increasing productivity while learning IT skills.
Sorry to intervene, Shreya. If it would be great if you can just move on to the objectives and then your research methodology and then the findings.
So I'll read out the findings for my paper. So a lot of people, a lot of the women that use social media for physical health, large chunk of people use it for mental health awareness and for sexual health as well. And I'll read out my findings from. So one sec. So we came across like the survey was conducted on 150 women across women from the urban area, which is like Delhi, Noida, and Gurgaon. So it is a very restricted survey. Other than that, women were asked if they use all kinds of social media, like digital media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit, and etc. So were they following any kind of pages and groups maybe which were talking about such issues? So there were like large chunks of people who said like 64% of them agreed. Other than that, people also consumed that there was a lot of misleading information, and they need to fact check the information while they propagate such information on their platforms and on their personal pages. And we also have so I'll quickly go through my conclusion in case we are running short of time. So my primary and secondary data accumulated in a theme show that women of varied age groups consume content for entertainment, edutainment, and henceforth showing active audience involvement in these content fields. People want to use social media to stay informed and create a personal growth strategy. The review of literature also tells us that exploitation of social media tools for misgendering, bringing down and negatively impacting the masses has been seen around the world, and in the Indian context, false accusations in the name of radical feminism and misogyny is observed. However, such wrongly depicted picture does not affect the masses, which are educated and can make an informed decision. Apart from the study, I have my limitations, which are as geographical limitations, since I did not carry out a nationwide survey and it was a very restricted sample. And the age group, since it varied from like young adolescents ranging from 16 to 35 adults, young adults including. Some respondents were reluctant in the giving out answers, and since it is a rapidly changing industry, analysis in one day and one segment can change very quickly. There were limited respondents and there was response bias. And that's all for my reference to.
Thank you. Pallavi ma'am, are you there? Yes, ma'am. You may give the feedback on this presentation. Pallavi ma'am, the presentation is over.
Yes. Thank you, Shreya.
Shreya, you can just stop the screen share.
Yeah, you can stop sharing your presentation.
One second.
So when Shreya, you say that you're investigating the role of digital media in creating health consciousness amongst women, right? And you mentioned that women are using social media or digital media to look at sexual health, mental health, menstrual health, right? What are the key intersections that you came across? If you were to kind of conclude in 2 lines, what has been the role of digital media in creating health consciousness?
Okay, Shreya, before you give answer to ma'am's question, I would again request, please turn the screen sharing off.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So social media platforms can play an important role in changing social cultural biases and perceptions by promoting relevant and effective campaigns and programs. Gender sensitization programs run on by social media platforms can drive people's understanding of unpaid domestic and care work done by women, promote equitable sharing of domestic chores, and encourage men to step up and stop online abuse. For example, Breakthrough India's Dakhal Do initiative. And I also read through Whispers initiatives. I also read through while going through the review of literature, I also came across that a lot of campaigns, while issues regarding, there are a lot of Instagram pages who talk about menstrual health and sexual health and who elaborate on topics which are needed, which were not like prevalent in the, like, if we go back to like 5 years in time. So I think that accumulates how the whole narrative has changed around the topics. So people have come up and started talking, which is a big thing, I guess. So social media has facilitated that for women as like it's an
okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we come to the end of our technical session 2. We've had some brilliant presentations, 7 presentations in all we've had in technical session 2, and ma'am has provided inputs on every presentation. So again, now I would like to ask ma'am, because I mean, individual feedback has been given, but I want to know what she feels about the entire technical session and how she rates this entire technical session. Ma'am, your comments have always been so valuable, and it has always been very nice to share any kind of academic space with you. It's such a great learning experience. So if you want to say something about this technical session.
Thank you, Pramodji. It's actually good to see so many students presenting in this session. As Sushmita talked about, this is a good trend. The only thing is that here is a little observation. I feel that just like today, people are talking about the fact that storytelling is one of the most important skills that anybody can have to kind of succeed. According to me, even when you present academically, it is like telling a story. So I would like all students to just introspect and see, look at the following points in terms of what is the story you're telling, how are you using visuals to tell your story, and how have you woven your review of literature while narrating your story, and finally, what is the original perspective that you have added to whatever you are presenting, right? So often one gets a little lost in the academic language, or one gets lost in so much of review or so much of information which is there. I think that's something which really helps to first understand what is it that you want to say to your audience, and I think that will really help you going forward. So thank you so much. I think it's been interesting presentations. A couple of them were really very good. The rest, I feel, people do need to kind of come up to a certain mark where they're very clear about what is the original perspective that they're adding, right? So it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We now move ahead, and I now request Professor Dr. Susmita Bala, HOD DME Media School, to please say something about this technical session.
Thank you, Pramod. Thank you, Pallavi ma'am. This session on education and health in the digital era impact of online on women and youth was really a brainstorming session. This session had paper presentations centered around health and education. These are vital aspects of our life. As we know, emphasis on them has further increased in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. We all shifted from face-to-face classes to online classes, and this invited to many problems along with benefit attached. Many researchers made presentation today on the impact of online education also. It is good to see many students writing and presenting their papers. In fact, while planning ICAN conference, as I said, we decided to create this space so that future academic and researchers can be prepared. We are contented that the students grab this opportunity. So thanks to all of you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bala ma'am. Now, I would just like to say one thing that the best paper presentation of technical session 2 would be announced in the next technical session. Meanwhile, I would like to tell that the best paper presentation from technical session 1 was by Associate Professor and Head Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, GNDU, that's Dr. Namrata Joshi. And the topic of her presentation was Exploring Sexuality of Women in Media. Yeah, that was the topic, and that was presented by Dr. Namrata Joshi. So she was adjudged as the best paper presenter for technical session 1. And now I would like to hand over the program to Ayush Sharma for providing the vote of thanks.
Sir, now I express my foremost and heartfelt thanks to the session expert to share the valuable insight about the theme. Thanks to all the presenters of this technical session, and special thanks to our knowledge partners, Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, Bhopal, Vigyan Prasad Government of India, and KSF, Keshav Suri Foundation. Our international partners, Institute for International Journalism, Ohio University, USA, Green University, Bangladesh, Fordham International University, Bangladesh, and our media partners for ICAN5, Amar Ujala, The Policy Times, Jai Hind Times, and the Hindi Post. Sincere thanks to the management of TME, Aman Sahani, Vice Chairman, Justice Bhanwar Singh, Director General DME, Professor Dr. Ravikant Swami, Director DME, for their support in every endeavor being taken by DME Media School. Heartfelt thanks to Dean DME Media School, Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena, Head Media School, Professor Dr. Susmita Bala, for their motivation in planning, executing, and organizing the flagship events of Media School. Thanks to Dr. Manasvi Maheshwari, Associate Professor and Associate Convener of ICAN5 for overall coordination for all the International Media Conference. Thanks to Sumantra Sartidas and Vishal Sahai, Assistant Professor, and Yogesh Sharma, Faculty at Media School, for digital and production support for ICAN5. Thanks to Dr. Manmeet Kaur, Associate Professor, and Pramod Kumar Pandey, Assistant Professor, for their efforts in supporting ICAN5. Thanks to Shruti VS, Assistant Professor, Media School. She has supported ICAN5 as the convener for cultural team and student coordination support. Mohit Kamal and Sukriti Arora, Assistant Professor for Newsletter, Press Briefings, and Media Coordination Support. Dr. Ritika Saxena, Assistant Professor for Designing and Creative Support. Saima Parvez, Dr. Sumeda, for their support in the proper execution of social media handles during the various sessions of ICAN5. All student coordinators from newsletter, production, hospitality, anchoring, cultural, and digital operations for the coordination and consistent efforts for the conference.
I would now like to request everyone to stay back for a group photograph. Requesting the digital support team to take the photograph. Please smile, everyone. I suppose we are through with the photographs.
No, not everybody has joined, Himakshi. The technical team should attempt another photograph and wait for a minute so that everybody can join, those at least who are there in the session.
We request all the paper presenters to join.
Yeah, all paper presenters, everybody please open your camera. And fine.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to announce that we have 2 more master classes after this. The first master class will be on the topic Inclusivity in South Asian Media, cases from India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. The master class will start from 2:30 p.m. onwards till 4:30 Indian Standard Time. The second master class will be on the topic Indigenous Peoples Communication with the focus on South Asia, covering Indian subcontinents, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. The session will be from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time and from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. according to USA's time. Stay tuned for more fruitful sessions. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.